Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Greg DuPont, who's the founder of Advocate Wealth Solutions, and we'll be talking about coordinating financial, tax, and estate decisions. Greg, welcome to the program.
Mike, thank you for having me. I'm excited to have our conversation here today.
You know, I am as well, and I always love when I hear the theme of the conversation. I always love when you can coordinate or integrate things together, because when you think about a certain phrase like financial or tax or estate decisions, those could be silos and those can be long-standing, 4-hour seminar topics in and of itself. But let's talk about how to coordinate them together. So before we dive into that, give us a little bit of your story and your background, and how did you get into the financial services industry?
Yeah, so Mike, first of all, that concept of molding the taxes, the investments, and estate planning, all that stuff, that's what's been available to the high net worth individuals and families for years, and what they call their family offices, right? And I came to the position of creating that for my clients that are not high net worth people, maybe emerging high net worth, but not necessarily the $100 million and up club like that is, from my experience as an estate planning attorney and a financial advisor, how I melded them together. You see, I like to say that I spent the first 1/3 of my professional career being part of the problem. At that point in time, I was siloed as an estate planning attorney. And I saw during that part of my career the impact on families when they did not have coordination, and let alone having a trusted advisor in those realms. And so I've spent the last 2/3 of my career, as I like to say, fixing that problem. And Advocate Wealth Solutions is one of the tools that is there to fix that problem for my clients.
I've often heard people in your situation say, well, I'm a recovering, attorney, or I'm a recovering, meaning, yeah, that's my background, but I'm taking all the good that I got from the industry and I'm bringing it out and leaving all the negative behind. And you're able to bring to your clients, maybe not specific legal advice, because maybe they've got their attorney, but to know that perspective. And I think the power of having seeing the whole field. And we hear, in football seasons, the quarterback can see the field. Well, if all they did was look at one receiver one time, they're getting picked off every single play. But being able to have the vision and sight of the whole financial field, there's a lot of moving pieces. So talk a little bit about how people can make sure that all of these things really are working together, because number one, the first step is to realize, in my opinion, that they should work together. They shouldn't be siloed. How do you bring that realization to your clients' minds?
Well, simply stated, Mike, when I started practicing law back in the 90s, it was the standard of care for an attorney that's engaging with a family and talking about estate planning to talk to them about specific asset protection trust, tax type trust, when they had assets in excess of $600,000 because of the estate tax that we had to deal with back then. As you fast forward 30 odd years into my career and where we are now, when you have a family whose net assets, their primary wealth, are tied up in their retirement accounts that have, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax embedded in that asset, most attorneys are turning a blind eye to it. And on the other side of that equation, when that family is going to their financial guy, whether he is a thinly cloaked insurance guy or a thinly cloaked investment guy, calling himself a financial advisor, they're not going to have that conversation either. Because for many of them, that means they're losing revenue by making the changes that the family needs to be made. So what we do, and by the way, I'm not a recovering attorney. I'm a flourishing attorney. I love the practice of law. And because I've been able to focus on this particular element, the intersection between law in terms of taxes and estates and the tools and the tactics, as it were, of the financial world. So when we come in with one perspective, and that is, how does your money support your life in the way you want to live it? Let's plan for that. And then if God's plan is different than your plan and you leave this earth early, how do we save what's left for the family from being confiscated by the U.S. government? And I use that phrase deliberately.
Yeah. That's huge. Well, let's go dive a little bit deeper on confiscated, because that's a trigger word. I think that a lot of people are like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. Well, that's because most people don't understand the impact of the deal they made with the devil, which is their 401ks or IRAs. That little tax break that they got early on, very few of them realize until they meet with an advisor that tells them this. Very few of them recognize the fact that there is a exponentially compounding tax time bomb in that asset that they think is theirs. And it's not. I'm part of Ed Slott's Master Elite group, and Ed's known for saying, he says all the time, that your IRA is an IOU to the IRS.
Yeah.
And most consumers don't know that.
Or they might know it logically, but they might not really feel the full import of what it does to their portfolio when the time comes due.
Absolutely correct, Mike. It's human nature, right? Heck, I'm an independent businessman. I've been doing tax withholdings and paying my taxes directly since I was 18 years old. So I've had my own dances with the IRS over those many years. So I know the feeling of writing that check and the urge for instant gratification to delay, to defer, reduce our current taxes, but now when most people are through that savings journey and are now facing, hey, I need to use this money, and they're looking at the horizon saying, wow, the world is kind of screwed up right now. Our tax rates are at the all-time low. We've got these debts and deficits. What's going to happen with my personal tax situation in the future? And when they finally come up for air from life and deal with this, they realize, wow, there is a whole lot of risk here. And if I do manage to navigate these waters and leave things behind for my family, at the tail end, who gets rewarded for the risks that I'm taking? The IRS.
Yeah.
What can we do to fix this?
And conversely, who gets penalized if we don't handle this? Your family, your legacy. So we need to fix it. And something just came to mind that I think is really powerful. You kind of touched on it. But when you say coordinating financial tax and estate decisions, you're coordinating it against what? And what I mean by that is this: hey, Greg, I'm going to take a vacation. Tell me all the details. Well, where do you want to go? How long do you want to stay? All of that. So you're coordinating what against what? Meaning, I'm sure that you have to sit down with a client and say, well, let's talk about this. What does retirement look like for you? Do you want to sit back and literally do nothing and play golf all day? Or do you want to start that nonprofit? Do you want to start a side hustle? Do you want to travel the world? So we need to coordinate the financial tax and estate decisions against their vision of their retirement. How do you help your clients articulate that for them? Because everyone is different.
And many people, when I ask them those questions, have you given yourself the time to visualize, I like to say whiteboard, what that retirement looks like? First of all, many of them give me the deer in the headlight look when I say whiteboard. They don't know what that means. Right. But most of them, end up in a position where they really have not given themselves the grace to even think about that, because they're scared to set these goals of what the future could look like in light of the lack of clarity on what's going on in their situation. So it takes a lot of coaching to get people to start seeing that, wait, I'm in this new phase of life, new season of life, as it were, and I've got the ability to design what that looks like. And what I've seen over time, dealing with many, many, many people, is, there are very few of them that go into retirement with a clear vision of what they want to do. It's, very murky, travel, golf, et cetera, et cetera. Some of them are perfectly fine and happy doing absolutely nothing. My father-in-law was that way, lived many years happy, sitting on the couch watching TV and doing little things around the house.
Yeah.
Other people are, just need to be up and at it. And many people see, once they're able to get clarity that their money will support their life and the way they want to live it, then the good old Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They start looking for things like contribution and significance and all that, and that's one of the real exciting things with what I do, is that I'm able to see people. Sometimes that light bulb goes off when they're able to go, "Wow, I can do this, that, or the other thing that I never thought possible. I can have this kind of impact that I never thought possible."
Yeah, and I think opening their eyes to opportunity and possibility is huge. The other side of the coin would probably be, oh, you said you want to do X, Y, and Z. Well, have you considered? Meaning, I think that a lot of times we punch the clock from 9 to 5 in corporate world, then you retire and you think, oh, my expenses are going to go down. They might not, because now you have more time to spend your money. You're bored. You want to travel more. So having them have a clear vision of what retirement looks like, but then what it's going to cost literally could be an eye opener to go, ooh, I need to plan better. Or it could be like, I thought it was going to be a lot worse. I can do a whole lot more. So having that clear vision is just, I think, essential. You almost become a life coach of sorts.
Mike, there are two types of people in this world: those that like the budget and those that don't.
Yeah.
And I think that skews like 99-1 don't like to budget to people that budget. But the one of the things I've observed over the years is that many people have been good stewards of their money. They've been planning towards this event, which we call retirement. As part of their planning, they get their cost in line, they get their house paid off, and now they wake up and it's time for retirement. And again, being good stewards and good savers of the money, they have a very reasonable cost of living. And a cost of living that currently may well be, mostly covered by their Social Security if they've been working the whole time and all that. And that's when they realize this problem with RMDs and taxes. When somebody finally points out to them that, okay, you can support your life the way you want to live it here, but here in a handful of years, you're going to have to pull out this much more money than you need, so that you're paying much more taxes than you need.
Yeah.
And so you've got that whole class of clients that wake up that day and say, holy moly, this is what's happening to me. Can we fix this? And yes, we can, if we are aware and we take steps. And then you have the other class of people that, have a high cost of living. They don't want to change their standard of living as they go into to retirement, and that's when they realize that they were sold a bill of goods when people said that your taxes be lower in retirement, because they don't want to reduce their lifestyle, and so it's almost damned if you do, damned if you don't, for the consumer.
But you at least need to face that fear, or clarify it, articulate it, paint the picture, and then start making steps toward chipping away to achieving that, because sometimes not knowing is the worst part. Like, oh man, if I had only known, I could have whatever. So being able to guide that decision, and it kind of leads me to another thought. I'm sure that if you hear, yeah, I should do that, but I'm too busy. Well, what are the risks for not having this coordinated strategy? So if you've got financial, tax, and estate decisions, and again, that could be a weekend long seminar on, coordinating all of this, but from a high level, if you were to lay out to someone, say, hey, I spent the last week working on your coordinated plan, I'm going to go over it. Here's this, 20-page PDF we're going to go over. What are the hidden risks of not having this and only having those siloed decisions? Like, oh, I've got my tax guy, I've got my estate planning person, but if they're not coordinated, what happens?
Well, Mike, here's where I make some enemies in the financial industry, because you mentioned that 20-page report presentation, which is part of the modus operandi of the financial advisory world. The consumer is confused. They're trying to get some information. They poke their head up like a gopher or the what's the Punxsutawney Phil? The Groundhog Day. They poke their head
groundhog,
up to try to get some information. And next thing they know, they have been whisked into somebody's lead funnel, and all they're wanting is some information. And they get into the lead funnel, and now they realize that, hey, wait a second, that this quote unquote advisor on the other end is into speed dating. And I just want this answer. I just want some clarity on what we're doing and whether or not I'm on the right track. And they're trying to either take over my assets or sell me annuities or whatever. And that's the consumer experience. So we deliberately have broken free of that type of approach. And our planning process is a two-part process. The first part of that is clarity. You're going to get clarity. We're going to go through everything that you've got. We're going to assess that. We'll charge you a nominal fee, a very reasonable fee, but we're going to charge a fee so that you're engaged and you're going to follow through. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to let you know, okay, this is the implication of what you've got established with your savings, how it's been structured. This is the implications of the tax. These are some of the risks. These are some of the strengths. And then if the consumer feels like they've gotten what they need because they just wanted to touch base on this thing, then they part ways happily. Maybe they come back in a few years, get another touch point. But maybe they see this, now they got their clear vision of what the future is going to be or what the risks are, and they want to have it fixed. So, okay, then we'll proceed to fixing that problem. And then only if, number one, in that clarity map session, if they feel like, yep, there is a problem here and we want you to work with us and fix that, then we'll fix that. Same goes on with the planning session. If they like the plan and they like to work with us, then we can work with them. And then if they want to work with us to provide the solutions, the tools from the industry that solve the problems, then we'll do that. But each point in time, the client can disengage, and that is designed to get the client what they need at that point in their life, instead of just being a data dump in a. When I started doing financial planning back in the day, it was it wasn't a 20-page, it was 100 pages because you baffle with bullshit, right? And that's still by and large what the industry relies upon.
And unfortunately, even when you have that big old, proposal or plan or whatever you want to call it, it's a bunch of technobabble that even if the advisor is walking them through supposedly and the client is nodding their head going, okay, they leave going, what in the world was that? So just tell me how this affects me. And I love your approach there. It's like, here's the clarity. Here's what you could do. Disengage, engage. I'm here to help. And that just takes all of the pressure off rather than that, let's just buy this and shoot this shot over here and let's hope for the best. And that's not a coordinated plan.
It's somebody's sales presentation that convinced you that they had a good answer.
Yep.
But it's not a
Can you think of a time where someone came in to meet with you that they had their plan? Maybe they even brought it in with them. You're looking it over. You're then showing them your, plan. And it's like, wow, this is totally different. This is, and you could actually say, look, going down the path you're currently going down, let me just show you what most probably will happen. Here's some of the risks and here's some of the volatility that you could experience because of what you're showing me. Here's my solution. Give me an example of working with someone where it's almost like the light comes on and they're like, hallelujah, where have you been all my life?
Well, I'll give credit where credit is due and damning where damning is appropriate as well. Had a client that was referred to me by by big wirehouse that shall not be named, Raymond, Fidelity,
Mm-hmm.
Schwartz, whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it. Okay. That their advisor said, hey, this is what we've got together, but I cannot give you tax advice.
Mm-hmm.
So you should really talk to this guy. And so we sat down and I looked at what they had, and from an investment plan perspective, great rate of return projected, no criticism of all that, but the projected rates of return were well in excess of what this family needed to make their goals. So they had excessive risk. This plan had absolutely no tactic in place to minimize lifetime tax costs, and people have to realize that between the ages of, call it 60 and 73, this is the golden zone. This is the opportunity for them to make small tactical changes in the way that they are either saving or using their income that have huge positive tax outcomes for them throughout their lifetime, let alone their heirs. So we walked through that process. We got that clarity for that client, and we made some very significant changes. And from our projections, we saved that family well over $2 million of taxes throughout lifetime.
Wow. Wow, that's and probably when you laid that out and they're like, even if this is wrong, it's still a massive amount of savings versus what I'm going through right now.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what happens if you don't do anything. This is what
Yeah.
happens if you do. And so
Wow.
the end of that conversation, is this a problem you like to fix now? Yeah. Do you want
Yeah.
us to fix it for you? Yeah. Okay. We'll fix it.
Yeah.
We'll see you
Let's
next
go.
week. We'll get it done.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's think about something when we're thinking about the families that, would check the box. I've got a CPA, I've got an attorney, I've got an advisor. Why do these coordination gaps still happen? And then who should be the party responsible for kind of quarterbacking that process of making sure there's no gaps, fill in the gaps, making sure that there's a plan put into place?
It is a turf war when we have families that have strong advisors. When I started my path to my education to become a CFP, part of the trainings there was, well, you need to bring the family's team together. You need to bring in their financial guy, the blah, 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 blah. And number one, most high net worth or emerging net worth or any people in this day and age, if you don't have to put money on it, we don't got a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to be having a meeting with their tax guy, their insurance guy, their guy, all separate. Okay. And so, first of all, many people don't have all of those elements, right? If you look at the numbers on how many people actually have advisors, it's negligible. Now you add a layer on that, how many people really have a CPA as opposed to doing TurboTax, or maybe they have an enrolled agent that's doing their taxes down H&R Block. And to be inside of those practices, there's just not the time for them to be tax strategists, let alone the training if you're just an EA on some of these things. So first of all, then many people don't have somebody who's there to give them true tax guidance. They think they're getting that kind of stuff from their financial advisor, quote unquote. But again, most people's financial advisor is who is their rep from Fidelity at their 401k. That's who they consider to be their financial advisor. And that is not somebody that has access to the full toolbox of tools, let alone, and this is the pernicious thing about the business, is, if you're a long-time successful person in the investment world or the insurance world or the legal world or the tax world, any of it, you have to become a true advocate of your silo. And believe in the tools that you have. If you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail, the old adage, right? And so people can be in good faith saying, hey, this is the right thing for you because this has been their influence. That, hey, I've got I've got this investment solution, this investment plan, this portfolio that we've created that's gonna blow everything out of the water, and it's been working like clockwork for the last 12 years. Great, sounds perfect. But what happens when the black swan event comes? Okay.
Yep.
But that's that, so anybody that's been in the business for more than 5 years hasn't washed out. They end up becoming very much a believer in their silo. And it's only because I come to this from the perspective of I started out preparing things for trial. And when I started investigating this business, I saw that problem. And one of my cornerstones from day one was to avoid having institutional or product bias. And that is I wake up every day with that as one of my my cornerstones, and that's how we've built out our models, how we've built out our culture, so that all financial tools are neither good or bad. They all have certain tendencies and properties that take care of certain problems. And it's just the allocation and the alignment between those solutions and the client's problems, and making sure that they have access to whatever needs to be done to solve their particular problem.
If we could just take that soundbite out and post that up on a document, that is just sound advice, Greg. It's just powerful to say, look, it's what's benefiting the client. Let's figure out where you want to go. Let's figure out where you are. What's the best combination for you? It doesn't matter to me. Let me show you some options. So if someone is thinking, let me see what this coordinated, approach would be, what's the best way they can learn a little bit more and reach out and connect with you?
They can check out our website we'll put the website here, but my email is greg@advocatewealthsolutions.com. They can reach out to me directly. Again, check out the website. And they can also, I don't want to confuse things too much, but I think it is necessary for people to understand, because when they start looking at me, they see I'm multifaceted. I got my law firm, DuPont Law Group. I have a page where it's just gsdupont.com, where all of my public appearances and those kind of things are on, because I do have a higher calling, which is the March to the Million. And I have the Wealth Solutions Network, which is a network of attorneys I'm training to do what I do. And further impact people. And we'll get into those conversations at another time. But the primary way to reaching me is just go to email me, greg@advocatewealthsolutions.com.
Excellent. Well, Greg, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today.
Pleasure's mine, Mike. Take care.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.